Debbie. You know my guys is never shook. It's time to sit down and let the Degens cook. That's right. You know they're coming through and getting heavy. It's time to talk some Dynasty and talk some Debbie. My guys is never shook. Time to sit down and let the Degens cook. Ow!
Hello, welcome to Dynasty Degens. This is episode 25, the big 2-5. You know, one of the numbers I didn't think we would hit. I figured, we'd get to 20 and then call it a day, retire. But we're at 25 and we are here. We have a fun show lined up for you, a show that I actually have no idea anything about, to be honest. I didn't even write the show sheet tonight. I didn't do anything. It was awesome. Nino did the whole thing. So big ups to Nino. Nino, the thrower from Fall Rivers, joining me as always. Nino, how you doing tonight?
Man, I'm excited. You threw me in the alley. I had to dunk it home, and then you told me I get to do it with my homies. This is even better. I wasn't expecting it to be these two gentlemen. I've done stuff with Mace for a while, and I've been working with Romero a couple of weeks now. We've been doing IDP threads, both college and NFL. So I'm gassed, bro. I can't wait to talk about some IDP guys.
Yeah, I'm excited to have these guys on. I think I sent out a thread where I was like, I need some guests. And then I got these two studs to come on. And then I was like, I don't know shit about IDP at all, man. I've never even been in an IDP league. But I think it's great that we're going to be able to use the platform to kind of use that for some IDP content, and then kind of at least get some people involved in IDP like myself that have never done it before. So drop some knowledge on that. Before we get that going, though, let's kind of introduce our guests and then talk about how they got into the IDP setting in general. SC Ramiro, I will start with you. How you doing tonight, brother?
Good, man. I appreciate you. I saw that post you made, and I was like, I got to hop on this. So I appreciate you reaching out and getting this started. I think that was a couple months ago. So you're a busy man. You have people lining up trying to get on. So good to be here. Good, my man Nino. Like he said, they're in this through the season. We've been doing IDP content every Thursday, every Wednesday, dropping a thread about college football and NFL sides. Just some things that we saw, whether it's up and downs on specific players and just how they performed. And my man Mace, man, I'm in some IDP leagues with him, and I told him like I'm excited to do this show with him. I've been following him for a while, so just one person I look up to in the IDP realm. So it's excited to be in a show with him and talk some of this for it. The PPR show on X, IDP has been something that I started my first IDP league 5 years ago, and it was just a home league, just a 8-man league with some homies that knew fantasy football. And I was like, man, I really want to do this. I'm tired of just starting the defense, right? I want to get into these players and do something a little bit more. So it's a smaller IDP one. We only have one defensive lineman, one linebacker, one defensive back, and 2 IDPs. But it's exciting. That got me into it, and I've just been rolling with it. I've been in so many IDP leagues now, and it's a fun time, man. If you like fantasy football, you're going to love IDP because it gets you more involved to it.
Yeah, I love it, man. Let's kick it over to you, Mace. Mace, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. I'd be a lot better if I beat SC in our RPO Dynasty League. He dusted me by 30 points. I think that was like my second loss all year, man. But, super excited to be here. Reached out, definitely. I think it's really cool that you don't play IDP and you're providing a platform to do that. We got all the notes, all the stuff together. Obviously, Nino, great dude, knows his shit. Romero over here as well. Big fan of his. Love the collaboration on it. You can find me on Twitter at CaliKing49er17. I do ranking for Fantasy Six Pack, IDP, and offense. Find my stuff on the ECR. I was the number 10 IDP ranker last year. So I appreciate the platform. I'm ready to dive in, man.
My man still uses paper and pencil.
It's up there. For those that didn't see, he flashed the paper. He's got it. He's got it ready. So, yeah. So I'm glad you guys, like I said, IDP is very foreign to me. Like I do a lot of college C2C Devi, mostly is how I escalated. I always kind of refer to fantasy football as drugs. So obviously you start redraft, you're smoking a little weed, get into a little bit, and then you escalate that and you're moving on. And then C2C is like, you're living on the streets, you're homeless. You're going to McDonald's most of the day. You're in and out of there, So, yeah. So IDP is something I probably should get into. I think It's going to be great to listen to you guys go at it. And then I'm going to sit back and hopefully, get some knowledge going so that I can start in my first IDP league. Nino, how about you start us off? I know that I think you're opening up with some rapid fire KTC right now. I think when you set this up, you said I'm going to take a page out of your book, and I don't like that at all. But I don't like that KTC as part of my book, so I don't.
No. I'm just saying, like the rapid fire engagement with the keep trade cut. We said last week that's not your go-to. It's just something that's consensus with people in the community, right? So we're in the community.
So I just wanted that on record that he walked that back. He did a walk back. So. All right.
I got it. I've only been with you a couple episodes. I can't be already throwing bombs at you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you can whatever. Throw the bombs, man. Yeah. So kick it off for us, brother.
All right. So I'm going to ask you two fine, knowledgeable gentlemen a couple questions. Rapid fire. I want your take on each side of it. We're going to go rapid fire. Keep trade cut defensive lineman. Montez Sweat, Nick Bonito, Brian Burns. I'm going to kick it off for Ramiro. What do you got for me?
I did keep as my Montez Sweat. Chase Young hasn't been performing as what's, and I think Montez Sweat is that guy you want in that defense. He's dominant. He can get to your quarterbacks, something that's just a value to your team. My trade is Brian Burns. I think that's off the name alone. I think he has the most value just based on his name, but he's also a competitor. So it's someone that can get out there. And my cut is Nick Bonito. He's been dominating this year, but at the same time, I feel there's still some uncertainty in the water for people. So you're not going to do much in that trade value for him. And then I'd rather have Montez Sweat over Bonito. So he got to be my cut.
I'm with you. All right. My guy, Mace, what's your deal here with Sweat, Bonito, and Burns?
Yeah, man. SC kind of took my heat there. That's kind of what I have too. Somewhat of the same reasons. Montez Sweat is in the last year of his contract, but he's making $11 million right now. So the Commanders were okay with kind of, give him a little bit more cash on the side. Brian Burns trade just based off the name per se. IDP, you can find guys rolling around like a Nick Bonito. You know what I mean? Not like he's ever been popping off before, but there are guys out there that you could probably slot in. So Brian Burns is a hot name. People like him, and he's pretty nasty when he wants to be, depending on how good the Panthers are, are going forward. So my cut would be Nick Bonito. He has been playing great this year. However, they got a new regime there. He wasn't drafted by that regime. I really think they're going to be flip-flopping that defense. They are absolutely horrendous. And if you look at Cooper on the other side, I think he's doing damage as well. So nothing against Nick Bonito. I just don't really think it's him. I think it's just a product of where he's at.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. The reason why I picked those three gentlemen, I kind of wanted to go with like the new guy, the hot commodity. Bonito's been killing it the last 3 weeks since, the Gregory flip. You got Montez Sweat, who just seems to be riding under the radar, but always performs because you got that big name, above him. And then Burns, who's been the big name, been performing, but I don't know if the switch to Agent Zero helps him because this year's kind of seemed like an off year. So you got the value in the name, like you both said. A couple of guys there. So if you were like Mike, new in the community, didn't know, just kind of riding off the buzz of people, you didn't know what to do, kind of out of it in the league, and you want to make a move, you kind of see where the community's going with this one. All right. Well, let's hit this linebacker room. It's a little mixture, guys. Get some new, some old, some been there for a minute. Keep trade cut. Let's kick it off with Mason this one. Bobby Okereke, Jordan Hicks, CJ Mosley. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and keep Okereke. I always say Okereke, bro. Okereke, I'm going to keep him. Absolute tackle monster. He is not in the best scenario either, but he did just get the bag for the Giants. They really don't have anyone else aside from McFadden, but I don't really think he has much of a future there if they start to flip-flop stuff around. CJ Mosley, I'm going to go ahead and trade. He is kind of older, but still a freak of nature, getting you the stuff. I'm just not sure for how much longer he's going to be there. They do have Williams behind him. I'm not really sure what Robert Saleh is going to do there. Jordan Hicks, he is efficient. He was like the IDP linebacker 1, maybe, I think, last week. He had a really good week. Yeah. So I don't know, redraft. I'm all about him, but anything past this year or next year, the Vikings defense is not very good at all. They're already bare bones as it is. And the draft picks that they've got, like Lewisine, aren't really panning out. So not really sure what they're going to do there. And for that reason, I would cut Jordan Hicks.
I love that you brought up Scene. I think we're going to kind of circle back at the end of the show about that, gentleman. And you mentioned with the Vikings, we thought Pace was going to be the guy, or they told us Pace was going to be the guy. But we saw that in the offseason when they said Brian Asamoah was going to be the guy. And he wasn't the guy. But it seems like he's the only steady Eddie thing in that defense outside of Daniil Hunter. But Daniil Hunter, we don't think is going to be there. At least I don't think it's going to be there come that trade deadline. So I might have switched it where I might trade Hicks for the value and cut the other gentleman. But let's see what Miro's got to say here. What are your thoughts on these three?
So I mean, Mace knows one of my guys is CJ Mosley. I traded for him in an all IDP league that we have. So I'm gonna say you keep him. Reason being is because of his age. You know, you're not gonna get as much value of him, but he's a solid contributor to your team. He's someone that racks up tackles, and when he's healthy, I mean, he's dominating for the Jets. You know, he is the leader. He's in a defensive-minded state with Robert Saleh there, so he is someone that's just gonna produce. And because of his age, you're probably not gonna get the value you want in him, so you want to keep him. On the flip side, I'm trading Okereke for that exact reason, because he got the bag. Now it's like, okay, there is value in here. You know, he's going to bring up tackles. Had, I think like 151 tackles last year.
Yes.
He's on pace to get just as many this year as well. But he's someone that you want to make sure you can capitalize on that value, because that defense is awful and we don't know if it's going to get better, and he's the highlight there. So before the sink ships, go ahead and get that value. For Hicks, man, same everything you were just saying. You know, I think he's a cut because we don't know what's going to happen. If he does get traded, or if he does just continue to produce what he's doing, they have some younger guys. They have Osmosa. They have Pace as well. You know me, I'm a Pace guy. He's someone that they can learn from him and everything, and he's someone that can easily be replaceable. The other two guys are leaders and confident people on that defense, where I think Hicks is someone, he's good, but he's replaceable.
I love the answers from both sides. I absolutely love CJ Mosley as the keep, because this is Dynasty Degens. So we're talking Dynasty. And like you're saying, the value for him in the long term in Dynasty isn't much compared to the other two gentlemen, where you could ride him out and say your season isn't good. Well, now there's a guy who's winning all. Now you got that value on a guy you kept for pennies on the dollar. So I'm with it 100%. I like your thoughts. As far as Okereke, I'm a little nervous now, because they seem to go out and get that guy this offseason, and Isaiah Simmons. Took him a little bit. Last 2 weeks, it seems like they're starting to use him the right way. This week, he kind of blew up and had a game. Is he going to be the guy? Is Okereke going to be the guy? We don't know. Yes, they paid him. But, you know, salary cap is a myth in the NFL. They can do anything they need to do anyway. So just because you got the bag doesn't mean anything. But all solid points from both you gentlemen. I love it. The last one, we're going to talk about the secondary. I'm going to go keep, trade, cut. Start off with Ramiro. Jesse Bates, Cameron Curl, Kyle Hamilton. What are your thoughts?
Man, this one was definitely the hardest one, I feel like. I'm a Jesse Bates guy, but I'm not keeping him. I'm keeping Cameron Curl. I just like that defense and what they're doing over there in Washington, and I think he's someone that's going to rack up tackles for you, similar to what Jesse Bates was doing his first couple years in Cincinnati. I think we're going to see that in Cameron Curl there. I'm trading Kyle Hamilton. Man, I got into IDP because I'm a Ravens fan, and I saw the 2000 Ravens defense. I was like, defense wins championships, right? And I think Kyle Hamilton just being on the Ravens team just elevates his value as an IDP player, but he's a dominant one. So he's young, he's ruthless. You can go get the value out of him. Jesse Bates, it's sad saying this, but if you had to, I would cut him just because of where he's at on the defense. I think he possibly gets over 100 tackles because he's the veteran leader on that secondary team. But out of these guys, I just feel with the Falcons, man, I don't know what to expect with them. And at any given time, he can just be someone that just doesn't produce for you. So I think you're better off keeping Curl and then cutting Bates.
I'm not going to give my thoughts on this because I don't want to steal any thunder from Mace, because I know he's got comment probably on this Commanders guy, because I know he had a guy that he loved last year in Derek Forrest. But Mace, what are your thoughts here on this one?
Yeah, so all right, I'm going to go with SC on the old cut. Definitely a Jesse Bates fan. Dude brings the heat. He plays in different roles. He does whatever's asked of him, and he delivers. Kind of like what you were just talking about with Derek Forrest. I mean, obviously Bates has been a lot longer, but that's why I like Forrest, because he's multifaceted and he can really do it all. And, you know, he's a later round pick, so whatever. So with that said, that's why I'm going to be keeping Kyle Hamilton, because he has his last year. He didn't really get a lot of IDP points. He's playing slot. He's playing everywhere, man. Finally got his role now, really settling in. Like SC was saying, he's definitely a cornerstone player on that defense. He's going to be around for a while. On the other stone, looking to trade Cameron Curl. DBs are kind of DBs, man, right? So you wait on them in the draft and you go and get your guy. And if you can get anything out of them, then you kind of get that. I love Cameron Curl. I've been ranking him as my DB 1 to 4 pretty much all season, man. He has been delivering. But he is in the last year of his contract. And he was only making $4 million in his contract. He's probably going to want to get paid. Not sure if Riverboat Ron's going to be the head coach there. They did bring over the offensive coordinator from Kansas City, whose name is escaping me.
The enemy.
Yes, and he's probably the next in the pecking order, I would assume, because he's an established coach, right?
Yep.
So they're probably going to have to bring in someone defensively minded, I'm assuming. So if they do that, I'm not sure if they're going to be willing to give him money. He is, I don't want to say injury prone, but he has had his injury history as well. So just because of the youth movement, I'm going to go with Kyle Hamilton as a keep, although you could trade him and probably get a lot more than you probably could for Cameron Curl.
I love it. And that's why I let you go first, because I was kind of in that boat. Okay, I'm with you, Ramiro, in your point. With Kyle Hamilton, I don't know if I would get the value back on my return that I feel he deserves. You know what I mean? Like, I put him, Petrie. I had Brisker in that box for the youth, but Brisker's kind of scaring me with that health concern. It seems like every year he's kind of getting hurt, and recently it seems like he's kind of suspect in that passing game. But I think everybody in Chicago seems to be suspect in that secondary recently. But Curl, I would trade Curl as well, because for a guy, and we talked about it last year, Mace, he seems to be like a top 5 to 7, safety in the league, but no, the consensus doesn't put him there, right? We kind of have, but like the main powers that be, they don't put him in that. And I don't know if NFL teams see him as that as well. The numbers, men lie, women lie, numbers don't. But and his numbers are producing. I'm with Mace, probably going to want a bag. In Dynasty, if you can catch a guy that's just going by pure numbers, I think you could trade that guy and get the best return, because they're just going to look at numbers, not dive in and see where his contract's at, what team he's going to be at. Or he's putting up, 16 a week. I may not know who he is, but I have a void in there, and I think you get the most out of that one. So I'm with you guys on both. I like both of your aspects on all three of these key trade topics.
Well, and real quick, with Kyle Hamilton too, you traded. I mean, you probably drafted him with a top 3 pick and only or top 5. So are you going to get that value back in a trade?
Exactly.
And so that's to your point.
That's my concern. Where we value him, I don't know if the guy who's going to want him is going to value him in the same position.
Yeah.
He'd be like, "Oh, I'll give you a first and Richie Grant," and I'm like, "Yeah, but it doesn't work for me." You know what I mean? I want a first and Antoine Winfield. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you want to play this game, that's the game I'm going to play. That's the right value on that. So, I get you. Let's just bring my guy. Mike, how we feel?
Going off Curl too, I mean, you're talking about them not wanting to pay him. I mean, this class has some nice safeties coming out, so it is very possible, like, hey, we'll let him walk and we'll go get Hunter Wohler or we'll go get Cole Bishop or something like that to just have that secondary presence and that dominance for them. So
cheap on a dollar for 3 to 4 years, depending on where he's drafted. So I'm with you there. Mike, what are your thoughts so far in this world?
It's interesting. It would, imagine if you've never done Dynasty before, or I never even done fantasy football before, and the first thing that you're being thrown into is a keep trade cut scenario where it's like you're hearing names that like from a different perspective. Like, obviously I know every defensive back's name and I'm familiar with like most defensive guys because with Dynasty, with C2C, I'm following all the defensive backs, but as a whole and not necessarily as individuals. So I'm unfamiliar with how these guys, I know tackles, I know sacks, I know this, that, but what outside of those stats, in my mind, this is where I'm thinking, the two things that I think I would need to learn is, how these players are getting these peripherals, like these points outside of tackles and sacks and what they're doing, like what helps
in the box,
all that good stuff. And then also how to value them in like a dynasty startup, like where am I going to take, the number 1 DB, like overall, like where, where would I take him in a startup? Like, where would you take, who's the number 1 value guy? Like Kyle, where would you take him in a startup?
Yeah, I'm with it. I think that's a question for another day and another episode, because the Dynasty IDP startup, is something I think that people need to see and I have questions about.
I wrote an article about that exact topic this offseason in regards to the 3 different types of scoring, the main ones, at least in my opinion. I rank Fantasy Pros, so I wrote about that one where you take linebackers, defensive linemen, safeties, the big 3 scoring, and IDP 1, 2, 3 as well. So I can shoot that over to you, and that'll kind of give you like a realm or whatever.
Yeah, and then drop it in here as well before we close out, because I think a lot of people that listen to this show might not do IDP, but I think they're open to it. So obviously this show is for you guys to have a platform, but to also grow IDP in general, because I'm all for growing, these up and coming platforms that, aren't as mainstream as, fantasy football, like in general, like as far as like a dynasty league goes. So
it definitely depends on scoring too. I'm a
Yes.
big fan of trying to keep it similar. It's hard. It's because you're not just getting receptions or yards, right? You're thinking about, okay, well, tackles and interceptions. So even if you have high scoring, it's possible your top guys still don't produce that well just because they're not making those big plays. So scoring definitely matters on how far you take them, but I'm a big fan of trying to get it as even as possible, and I haven't found the exact league yet that has it's either your IDP score crazy amounts and then it's just like, okay, here's your quarterbacks and some top running backs, or it's they're not scoring anything, so you're not even picking them till the 10th round or even later. So scoring definitely matters, but that is something that I think the community as a whole needs to try to figure out. Okay, what is the best way to make it efficient? Where I'm deciding, do I take Patrick Mahomes or do I take Roquan Smith? What's going on here? We haven't figured that out quite yet.
I'm with you 100%. The community, Sleeper, whatever the ones you use, Yahoo, ESPN, would sit down, make a decision of what's going to be the standard scoring, and then we can all do custom leagues from that. But we need a standard, and we haven't got that yet. We're talking Dynasty. A lot of people, he just brought up the whole startup. Everybody starting up needs a dino, okay? You need that Dynasty dinosaur, okay? The first guy I'm going to talk about, and I want your direction, what you guys would do, may not seem like a dinosaur because he's only 27 years old and he's playing very well right now, but he's got multiple injuries, right? He's had I think it was 2 out of the last 3, car accident injury. These things affect guys, especially in a position where they just violent all the time, downhill. First guy off the mat, Dynasty Dino, is Myles Garrett. 92.2% owned in fantasy, 13 tackles, 9 solo, 5 tackles for loss, 5.5 sacks, got a forced fumble. Like I said, he's 27 years old, he's had multiple injuries. Where are you pivoting with Myles Garrett right now in Dynasty? Ramiro, we'll go with you first.
He's definitely someone that can still elevate your team. With the injuries, you don't necessarily look at that. That hurts, but I wouldn't say he's injury prone. When he's on the field, he's making an impact, right? Yeah. So if you have that ability to go get him, why not? He's a dinosaur, as you mentioned. Maybe the hits are catching up with him. The defensive linemen are almost like your running backs because they're going face to face with these offensive linemen every single play. So it's not like a linebacker that could drop back into coverage or a defensive back that's not even going up into the line most of the time. So he's someone that has heavy value, and you want to make sure you get what you can for him because he's still going to be in the league probably for about another 6 years, another couple contracts maybe at least. And he's dominating. He has a defensive overall ranking of 91.7 on PFF right now. So he's someone that you want on your team, especially with sacks. He can go out there and get you some sacks, and typically those are something that can get you a little bit more points. You're not getting tackles as much from a defensive lineman, but with the sacks and the ability to have that strength to go get a forced fumble, he's someone that can be a value week in and week out for you.
I love it. Mace, what are your thoughts here as well on Myles Garrett?
Yeah, you're gonna have to pay up and pry him from my dead cold hands to get him off my fantasy game. At least for the next few years, like SC was saying, bro. And also a big thing in the IDP realm of the world. I know some people on the offensive side kind of get caught up in names, but he is one of those tier 1 names that you look at and you're just like, I want that guy on my roster, not because he scores points, but because it looks a lot sexier on paper when you have a Myles Garrett as your DL1, you know what I'm saying? Like a Max Crosby, someone like that. So, maybe around draft time, I'll press that trade block button and just kind of let chaos ensue and see who's going to shoot me an offer. Maybe I get something just, crazy or ludicrous and I'll accept it. But other than that, it's just, pillow talk, flirting offers. I'm holding on to him.
Okay. And I'm with you. He's not Aaron Donald. Okay. He's not 33, right? He's got 6 years, like you said, probably before we get to that point. I wanted to put Aaron Donald here. I thought that was just a layup. We all know what direction it's going. We know his direction. He's still performing, but he's not performing at the Myles Garrett level. The only reason why I put him here is because of the injuries. And how some people are in fantasy, they start to, see the numbers. They do that 1,500 touches with running backs, certain age limit with QBs, and they start to get scared. IDP is a different world. Wanted to see what your thoughts were on this one. Let's talk about a guy who's a little bit older. Bobby Wagner, kind of been around the block. He's been traded back and forth. Now he's reunited with Seattle. 87.6% owned in fantasy. He's got almost 60 tackles this year, almost 30 solo, 3 tackles for loss, 2 sacks. Like I said, 33 years old. Jordan Brooks seems to be back from the injury, looking good, right? No problem. They have another guy. I forget who's the third linebacker there. He never did anything special for me. I think he came over from Pittsburgh. I can't think of his name right now. But what are your thoughts? Yes, Devin Bush. Meh, right? Meh his whole career. Just just another guy in my eyes. What are your thoughts here on Bobby Wagner? And where are you pivoting with him, Mace? I'm going to go with you first in Dynasty. Are you trying to push him and trade him, or are you reaping the benefits for the rest of this season and see what happens?
Honestly, I feel like he's one of those guys that's just kind of out on an island. Like, if you know IDP, you know he's going to produce, but at the same time, like you were saying, you're not really sure how much longer he's going to produce. So it might behoove you to kind of just hang on to him and squeeze the lemon for as long as you possibly can, unless you get something good. Now, if you want to top up a trade, we'll say you have a second-round pick. Maybe it's at the beginning of the second round. You want to trade with a guy that's in the middle of the first on draft day. Maybe add him in there, do that, go get your young stud defensive lineman or whoever you want to get, as long as it's not a DB, hopefully. But like maybe something like that. So I could see him more as like an add-on option or in a conjoined league. If you have offense, add in a Bobby Wagner because he's a sexy name instead of maybe giving up like a third-round pick as well.
He's a guy that you kind of know his ceiling and his floor all in one. Ramiro, what are your thoughts here on Wagner, and where are you pivoting in Dynasty with him?
So I think he's a player that it depends on where you're at. Like, are you competing? Are you fringe, or are you not? If you're competing, he's someone you want to keep because you're not going to get that heavy value for him. If you're on the fringe, you can try to shop him around, but you're probably not going to get much bite for him. So if you're not competing, though, I'm going after some players like maybe Jack Campbell, someone that has in their say producer. You're looking on a team that is competing. If they have someone like a Jack Campbell, be like, look, man, Bobby Wagner's out there. He's doing his thing. He to me, he's like a Ray Lewis of this generation. He's just a leader on the defense. Any defense he's a part of, you just know he's the captain because of his presence on the field, right? So he's someone that if you can go get Jack Campbell maybe a second, that's something that's good. But again, it has to be a team that's competing that says, okay, he's going to push me over that edge because I can't wait on Jack Campbell anymore, right? So if you can get the value on a younger linebacker, I'm all for that. But, I mean, it depends where you're at on the season. Bobby Wagner is going to continue to dominate. He's going to continue to get you tackles, which are huge for linebackers, probably one of your most consistent things when it comes to IDP scoring, right, is getting tackles. And he's someone that you can know can go out there and get 100-plus tackles in any given season.
Correct. And consistent. Like I said, the ceiling and the floor are very close with Bobby Wagner. It's been like that way probably the last 6 to 7 years. Now, this is an easy one to lay up for me because Mace put something out there this morning about 8 o'clock, and I'm just going to piggyback off of it here. You mentioned packaging something. Would you say you're, in that 3 to 5 rank, in your league, you're placed 3rd to 5th, and you got somewhat depth at the linebacker position. Would you trade a Bobby Wagner to a team that could get you Sanborn and a second, because Sanborn quietly and surprisingly has been producing this year? What are your thoughts there, man?
Yeah, I like Sanborn, but he's an undrafted free agent, man. You know what I mean? So, like, there's not a lot of investment there with him. He is playing in that third role, I guess, but they also have Edmonds. They have Edwards, and then they drafted, I'm going to butcher his name, Sewell.
But he hasn't even seen the field. He
hasn't yet. But Sanborn did have injury problems last year. That's what kind of brought his 5-6 week craziness, to an end a little bit. So I kind of get what you're saying. I would rather get like a Jordan Brooks, the LB2 for Seattle, and then like a second-round pick for Wagner, maybe.
Are they on the same level of value, though? In my eyes, I think Jordan Brooks is at the same level of value on Bobby Wagner because Bobby Wagner's value comes down in value because of his age. But Jordan Brooks before the ACL injury was 130 tackles, right? Like right there.
Yeah, Wagner's like like 7th overall to like 15th, depending on the week and who they play against. Whereas Jordan Brooks, for me, is more like a 25 to like 36. So I get that. Jordan Brooks will have higher spike games, but it's the drop-off that you have some weeks for him opposed to Wagner, Mr. Consistency.
Okay. You think you could get a second? Like, cause I know,
No, I'm talking out of my butt here, man. There's no way someone's going to give me a second for him. I'm not going to sit here and be like, yeah. I mean, if they do, then obviously parade it.
Jump on it,
go me. But yeah, I mean, you got to be smart with your trades, throw out some feelers, see what happens. But at the same time, if you have a Seahawks fan who's never had a Bobby Wagner and they're just starting IDP, they might trade you something crazy for him. You know what I mean?
Right.
It happens all the time in leagues, man. You got to have fun too, right? So,
you're right.
They have some fun.
All right. I got one last Dino I'm going to talk about. We're going to go in the secondary position. This gentleman, he's kind of having Jesse Bates here, I guess you would say, right? Kind of older, coming back, had an injury. We didn't know what we were going to see out of him at the end of his run here. I don't know if he's going to finish out in Minnesota, but Harrison Smith, he's owned the close to 60% of fantasy leagues, 43 tackles, 26 of them solo this year, 2 tackles for loss, 2 forced fumbles, 4 QB hits. So he's still getting down in the box, still, pressuring the QBs. 34 years old. Where's the pivot here with Harrison Smith? Excuse me, Harrison Smith. Mason, start with you first.
Yeah, Harrison Smith, you can count him out as much as you want, but he just does not care. He's going to come in and get his licks, man. I don't know if Minnesota is going to be able to trade him except to a contender. I don't know, maybe the Eagles, but they're on the same side of the conference. I don't know if they would do something like that. Also, his contract maybe a little hindering. I'm not sure if the Vikings want to take the hit. You might as well keep him, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't really know. If I have Harrison Smith, I'm just going to keep him because I got him at value this year. I know it's Dynasty, but in redraft, I got him at a lot of value, and you could have. And if you started Dynasty today, or if you would have 2 or 3 years ago, it's kind of the same value. It's been falling off, but he's still producing some weeks at top 10, if not, top 20 fringe. So I'm just going to keep him and ride him off into the sunset.
Gentlemen, whose floor and ceiling is pretty close. Ramiro, what are your thoughts here on Harrison Smith? And are you pivoting from him in Dynasty?
I mean, he's a dog. I'm not going after and trading for him, but yeah, if you got him, I mean, you keep him because he's someone that's gonna produce for you. And same as Bobby Wagner, but he gets down and he is dirty. Last year he had 5 interceptions, none this year, which is a little bit concerning. But there's still plenty of football to go, and he's gonna get those tackles. Now, if you needed to pivot from him, I mean, someone I like, and I'm someone that I go after guys that you may be off of because of maybe an injury or something like that. So someone I really like is Christian Gonzalez, and I'll talk more about him later. But if you can go be like, hey, man, look, you're not using Christian Gonzalez. I don't need Harrison Smith. Let's make this deal to push you over and make me, get this younger a little bit here. There's some guys coming out, like I mentioned, this safety class is pretty deep, to me at least. So I think there's a lot of guys that can be of that similarity of Harrison Smith that just go up at the line and get down and dirty in the trenches there, if you will. So it's something where the age hurts differently because he could. I thought he was going to retire this year. I
exactly.
thought I'm done. So he didn't. He's still coming out and doing it. So if you want, your window's closing because once we get closer to the playoffs, it's like, all right, it's do or die, right? So you want to go, if you're going to get something for him, try to go shop him around and see like what you can get, because he is someone that is going to get probably 80 to 90 tackles, if not more, couple interceptions at least, and he's probably going to get 1 or 2 more forced fumbles. That's just the player he is. So he is going to be a threat to anyone that has him. But if not, man, I'm comfortable keeping him. He's a dog.
Yeah, I like the injury factor there. Pry on the weak, right? They got a guy that probably upset about that they can't use that was dominating for them because Gonzalez was having a good stretch there those 2-3 weeks before he got the injury.
Mm-hmm.
He was battle tested. He had one of the toughest runs of wide receivers, right off the rip to go through, and he held his own. I mean, look at the Cheetah, gave him his flowers right after the game, said that Gonzo was a dude. So somebody's hurting losing that guy, and I'm with you. If you're in the middle of the pack and you can afford to get rid of him, or your season's not looking like you're going to make the playoffs, and the guy who lost them is in that contention. Hey, why don't you take these points? I can sit on this guy. You can maybe go right out in the sunset with a guy who's ready to ride out in the sunset on his own. Mace, what you thought?
Yeah, also in IDP, people for some reason are really standoffish when you talk about defensive tackles or cornerbacks. If you're only doing like your big 3 standard positions, right? Defensive linemen, people want your stand-up edge rushers like a Reddick or Crosby, who can kind of do both, whatever. So if you get a corner, you can still get a slot corner or a guy that does work on the outside that's going to get it because he is young. So if you can capitalize on that, that's perfect.
I love it.
And I'm happy losing Harrison Smith and going and get someone like Deshaun Elliott, who's probably still on the waiver wires, right?
Yeah.
So you can go out there and get that and be like, okay, I'm not losing as much as I thought I may, picking up someone that's on waivers for free and still making the trade by getting more assets out of it too. So.
You could probably get Nick Scott as well, right? And he's a dude who's been consistent all year, who most people thought was kind of just going to be depth, right? Who's gotten to a role because their youth hasn't stepped up to the plate yet. So they're riding out Nick Scott. I love it. We're going to do a segment now that it's kind of like, what the? Because these are names that everybody kind of knows, and either they're performing to what, or underperforming to what we thought, and a guy that maybe we didn't think was going to perform as well, and he's overperforming. This is called the What The segment. First off, this one hurts my heart, my soul a little bit, because I was a big fan of this gentleman right out the box. I feel like since that rookie year, it's been injury plays a factor, but everything's been downhill. And they seem to draft his replacement a little bit here. I was a little nervous when he came out of Florida State and Jamie Robinson. We're talking about, Jeremy Chin. No injuries, like I said, played a pop. Chin's being shopped by the Panthers, which is a huge surprise to me. Only has 20 tackles on the year, 2 tackles for loss, 1 PBU. Is it about to be Jamie Robinson's season? And what do you do right now with Jeremy Chin in Dynasty? Ramiro, you're on the clock.
I mean, I think he's someone that you want to keep because his value is too low. We saw him dominate. This is that contract year, right? So if it is Jamie Robinson's season, sure, but he's a value in the NFL where someone can use and trade him. The scare will be, you see what they did with Isaiah Simmons. He was kind of being a similarity, right? That can line up in the back or line up at the linebacker position. And then he went to New York and he's not being anything. They're not using it. So that would be the scare. But because of that, that's also the potential where, hey, when Isaiah Simmons got traded, he jumped up in value because it's like, okay, well, they obviously didn't want him, but now he's on this Giants team that looked good on paper.
Needed help.
So, but now, you have Jeremy Chin where he's a versatile athlete. He's someone that can go line up in the box. He can line up as a safety. He can be your nickel back if you need it. He's someone that can be all over the field. And for a position like that, you won it. We've seen him get over 100 tackles. We've seen him get some forced fumbles. We've seen him get some interceptions. Everything you want in an IDP player, he produces. But right now, the value's too low, so you want to keep him.
Yeah, I see him come out his rookie year, and he gave me like that Minka, that Derwin vibe. Like he can hit, he can have his hands on the ball, he can play in the box, right? He can line up at linebacker. And I'm like, oh, give me all of this youth, right? I see the young version of these guys. And then he came out second year in the first couple of games, and I'm like, okay, we're still rolling with that vibe. And then the injury came back, and they forced him back. I think they forced him to play a little early because they were trying to make up for holes in other positions, should we say? And he never was able to get back to 100%, compounded the injury with another injury. And this year, I just think that they're not waiting around, right? They're at a position where they know that they have to feed the machine that is Bryce Young, give him weapons. And if it means that Chin has to be the guy on the block, then he has to be, because they have a guy behind him who can kind of play that similar role. Because I think Jamie Robinson could play in that slot, maybe that nickel role. You know what I mean? Maybe you could put him in the box. I don't know if he could play linebacker, but I think he can play multifaceted positions, maybe not as many as Chin. So what are your thoughts, Mace, on Chin?
Yeah, I'm going to hold him. Like SC said, he is in the final year of his rookie contract. He can play a multitude of positions. He does do it well most of the time. The thing that scares me is he's just not getting snaps. Like, they're just not putting him in. I don't know if that's to kind of keep him so that they can deal him or what. If they do deal him, it kind of scares me because he could go over to a spot and just become a journeyman where he signs 1 year deal, 1 year deal, 1 year deal. Who's that Raiders defensive back, Abram? He was playing really well at first. He was drafted
Houston, Green Bay,
and then Seattle, and he just fell off out of nowhere. But like, he was decent for IDP for a little bit. Not that they're the same player, but that's the kind of vibe I'm getting from this. Now, on the flip coin of that, if he gets traded to like maybe the Eagles or something, and they use him in the right role, then he'll be good for you. I'm just going to hold on to him because, like SC's saying, you're not going to get your return investment for that. And the window's kind of shut right now. So if you can go somewhere else, create some hype, kind of like Isaiah Simmons, so you just kind of, get rid of him and take what you can for him. Otherwise, hold on.
Gotcha. All right. Here's a guy that I think is a surprise because I don't think everybody's seen this coming. I wasn't a big fan coming out of Alabama with him, but he's doing his thing, and that's linebacker Henry. I don't know. I'm going to mess it up. Teoto. I don't know what it is, but he's got
Teoto.
He's got 61 fantasy points on the season, right? And he wasn't even a starter week 1. Don't think many people saw Kirksey being cut and then retiring, or Perriman getting injured. Over the last 4 games, he's got 90% snap share, 42 tackles, a tackle for loss, 2 pass breakups. What is your dynasty outlook for Henry Teoto?
Yeah, I was a fan of him coming out of Bama. The thing is that he's going to get the opportunity because D'Amico Ryans is from Alabama and he handpicked him, and this is their first year. Perriman's been kind of injury toward the second half of the season anyways, even going back to when he was on the Raiders, stuff like that. So I don't want to say like I saw it coming with the tea leaves, but I figured that he was going to get an opportunity. Now, Kirksey falling off, didn't expect that. They have Cashman, I think is his name, coming in, and he's actually starting 100% of the snaps. But he's been in the league for 5. I think this is like his 5th year. He was drafted from the Jets. Not really sure how long-term that's going to be. I really expect Henry to – how do you say it?
Toto? I don't
Yeah, either way, I think he's going to be pretty nasty coming out next year. I don't know if he's going to get the dot or anything, but I think that he's going to be a very centered piece of that defense. It's his piece to lose, but I really think DeMeco Ryans, he kind of made a diamond out of Fred Warner, definitely made a dog out of Greenlaw. That's just his forte, man. So I don't want to say I'm expecting huge things, but for the investment that you have, or at least that you gave, whether it's just picking him up off waivers or taking him in the 5th round of your draft, you've got to be happy with what he's getting. So you just kind of got to hold on to that, I feel like.
All right. Before I pass it to you, Ramiro, on him, do you think his value is sky high where you could kind of get a little bit extra than what you spent for him?
No, I think people are kind of nervous about him because he is still the LB2 and Cashman's in front of him. And if you want to use that as a kind of bargaining chip, that's fine. I just know that I can't say that I know. I haven't talked to head coach DeMeco Ryans personally, but you can kind of tell the gist of what's going on there, and that he's in early. It is his rookie year. He's getting the time. He's getting the reps. Why? You know what I mean? They have a plethora of guys that they could put into that position, and they're not.
Gotcha. All right, Ramiro, what are your thoughts here on Double T?
I mean, echoing what he said, I'm buying him, everywhere I can, because especially with the emergence of Blake Cashman, I don't think Cashman's there long term, and because he has that role tied in him, DeMeco's will give him that chance. Perriman's not it. They're going to let him go, so it's going to be his to lose next year. So you're going to see a lot more from him. DeMeco is a defensive minded guy. He's someone that got drafted by the Texans, played middle linebacker in the Texans. This is everything that, Toyota, however you pronounce his name, is doing, right?
Wait, guys, sorry to interrupt you. If I only contribute one thing to this pod tonight, it's going to be how to pronounce his name. To'o. So it's it's like Henry
To'o. Okay.
To'o. All right, I'm out. See you later.
Thank you, Mike.
I appreciate that. We need to get it right. I appreciate it. So To'o. I think I said that right on.
Yes, you got it.
But look, I mean, he's a great linebacker. I think he has the leadership capabilities. So I think right now he's a buy low. You're not trading him because you're not going to get the value of what it could be, I think. So he's definitely a hold, but I'm going after him, especially in the IDP league. I mean, linebackers produce, and if he's that leader, you could see him get 100 tackles or more next year, being the vocal piece for the Texans.
All right, well, you guys aren't going to skate that easy because you both said you're buying them. Well, what are you buying them for? Give me an offer you would send out there right now. What's something you would test the market with? Ramiro, talk to me.
So, I mean, again, scoring matters here, right? So if you're giving up a draft pick or anything like that, I mean, right now you could probably get him for like a 3rd or a 4th round pick, depending how deep your IDP leagues go. So that's fair. I would do that. If you're looking at player-wise, I mean – so some possible veterans, or you could toss in like, let me get To'o and a first for a Bobby Okereke if you want to just really move up and explode it, right? Because you can go say, okay, I'm not gonna get Okereke, I'll go get Michael Fadden, so you can go and do some pivots, maybe CJ Mosley on that competing team, so go get your guys that produce for a sleeper. Again, if you're someone that's not necessarily competing, but you want to help this slow rebuild, he's someone I think will be in there. If you're just giving picks away, a 3rd or 4th, a 3rd max, and if it's projected mid to late, I'm cool giving that. And then, player wise, if I need it, and just trying to do that soft rebuild, then I want to go get him for an older vet guy.
Mace, are you on the same page?
Yeah, I was just going to throw a name out. Maybe a guy like Alex Singleton.
Okay.
Drew Sanders was drafted to be his replacement. He can play inside linebacker or outside. It's just a matter of time. Sanders hasn't been amazing, but we kind of knew he was going to be a project. So Singleton got paid 3 years, a handful of $1 million. So that defense sucks, and there's going to be.
Would you sub in Josie Jewell or Singleton in that mix? Like
either way, you might be able to get more for Jewell depending on who you're trying to trade with and how knowledgeable they are. But Singleton for To'o and a pick. Yeah, for sure. 2nd, 3rd, depending on what the vibe is.
Anzalone, something like that as well. Does that kind of work in that class? Or?
Yeah, just because he's taking Jack Campbell's time, man. I don't even know. That was such a luxury pick, man.
We talked about this, I think, last year, right? We talked about the Detroit linebackers, where it's Malcolm Rodriguez, right? Who was it going to be? They haven't learned. right? Like,
Still
Dan,
playing
come
Barnes,
on,
too.
bro, stop doing the same crap. Just let the
Yeah.
dogs eat.
Well, Anzalone's lighting it up. It's not like he's playing bad. Like, he's not been flawless for IDP, but he's been top 40 for sure every week.
Right.
But it's just he just won't go away, man.
Hey, there's always someone knocking at the door. All right. This one hurts a little bit. This is one that's kind of been in the community for a while. We've been talking about it, and we're just going to address the elephant in the room. Defensive lineman, Chase Young. Another one of those, did the injury ruin his career, right? He's only 24 years old, and from what we were told, he's 100% healthy. Through 5 games this year, he's got 43 fantasy points, 12 tackles, 3 sacks. 1.5 of those sacks came this week on 31 pressures. What are we doing with Chase Young? What are the Commanders doing with Chase Young in Dynasty? Romero, lead it off.
Man, I'm trading him. We don't know what it is. The name value alone could get you high capital or something back in return. So I'm letting him go. I like Montez Sweat. I like Colbart in there instead. Some guys that could produce the tackles or get to the sacks. And like you said, we don't know what he's doing. So he could have that second stretch of emergence on a different team, right? But it's not something I want to wait for. So I'm trading him while he is looking good. He's producing a little bit here, but it's like, look, he's healthy. Here's a guy that went top 10 in the draft. So here you go. Let's take him. But use that name to your advantage. Go out there and get some high draft capital. A couple seconds for him or something like that. You're not trading a first for any IDP player. I mean, again, unless scoring makes that difference. But it's going to be hard to do that because your first 12 picks are typically your offensive weapons. So if you get a couple seconds for a guy like that, let's go do it. I would go get, a player like Jeremy Tin. That's a great one. That it's like, oh, he's up in the air. We don't know what's going, but I like the versatility more in him. Where Chase Young, you're just getting him at the line. He's getting you some sacks, but I don't think he's doing much out of that. And that health is a factor where I don't believe that he's 100% healthy. I think it's something that's lingering, whether it be physically or mentally. Something isn't there that I saw when he first came out, and it is time to sell him.
Is there a chance in this community where people are all about the what have you done for me lately, especially in the IDP? I tend to see that more than with the offensive side. They kind of like the shiny new toy, right? Christian Wilkins was supposed to be a dude this year, and he's kind of had a really off season, right? Is there a chance that you could possibly flip Chase Young for Christian Wilkins and reap the benefits of that trade on a guy who's kind of starting to come around this year for the Dolphins? Because it seems as though Wilkins is starting to turn the page. A lot of people might be tired of waiting. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think you can. You probably get a little bit more. Again, that people, when it comes to IDP, sometimes they look at the draft value. I mean, you do that in the offensive sides too. You look at the draft value, where they were taken. Oh, they have some high value. Depending on where they're at, even if he gets traded because he got picked in the top 10, he's going to get that playing time.
Right.
I love Christian Wilkins. I love this Miami defense. I think Mike McDaniels is doing a great job with the whole team in general. So he's someone that I think they trust him and they're going to continue to feed him some opportunities. There's just a lot of dogs on that Miami defense, though. So it may take some time, but if you can go get that, I think Wilkins is going to be there for a little bit. So you can go out there and trade for him for sure.
I love it. Mace, what are your thoughts here on Chase Young? And what are your thoughts here on that trade option I threw out there? Like Christian Wilkins in a little bit, or is there another guy you think fits that realm?
Yeah, so I'll just touch on the trade really quick. I think it would be kind of lopsided if you took Wilkins like away from someone and traded Young. I think that you'd just be completely dusting them off. I think Young's best days are behind him. When we first started talking, even with Moon, man, I was on his show. That was the first thing I said, was that I feel like the longevity of Chase Young is going to be worse than the career of Montez Sweat, not just because of the injury, but with everything. And I am super happy for Chase Young, his journey. He's been coming back. That's great. But there's one thing that I've noticed with not just Young, but the player on the opposite side, Sweat. Every time there is a sack, it's either them together or afterwards Sweat is gassing the hell up out of Young. And I don't know if that's because he knows his mental game. He knows he's not there. He knows he's not fully back yet, whatever. I'm just not really sure if they're going to invest the coin into Young because they have Sweat and he's playing so well. I mean, Sweat does have a thumb injury right now. He's week to week, I feel like.
Right.
But Allen has 3 years left on his contract in the center, and he's great for IDP. You have Payne, who's kind of been off and on this year, but he just got the bag. He's got 4 years. I think they have an out at the third year, though. And then Sweat, he's $11 million 1 year left, and I really do feel like that he's going to end up being the cornerstone guy that they go with. So if I can deal Young based on his draft capital, then sure. But like you were saying, what have you done for me lately? People aren't really going to want to take the risk, I feel like. So you are going to have to take some risk upon doing it. If you can trade him as an edge for a defensive tackle that's half decent, like you were saying with Wilkins, then yeah, go ahead and take that. But I think you'd be hard pressed to try to find someone to do that straight up. You'd have to add some picks, have to have it be on the right day, find the right fan, kind of things like that. So super happy for him. But I'm taking Sweat, Allen, Payne, and then Young.
Okay. Is there a chance where someone like out in Tampa Bay, my boy, what's his name, Joey Tryon? Would you trade Young for him and maybe a second? Would you take that?
Yeah. The thing about Tampa Bay is I don't really know what they're going to do in the offseason. Like even Devin White was asking for a trade. Now he's not. He's having a bad season.
I have a funny feeling Lavonte David timing.
Yeah.
So I think we're kind of seeing the curve kind of fall off this year. I think Devin White's quiet because he knows he's kind of got them over the barrel, even with having a bad year, because you wanted to pay the guy, you pissed me off, you brought him back another year, you stuck my progression as being the dude, and now he's falling flat on his face. Oh, people, when we sit down in that office next year, I'm going to be the guy doing the talking, and then it's going to be the guy listening, for sure. So it's a lot of youth there in Tampa Bay. That's the thing. I think they're doing it right. They got a lot of questions on the offensive side of the ball, but I think in the defensive side of the ball, the move Winfield in that secondary was huge for them. He's been doing his thing, right? He looks like a brand new man. They let Ramirez go. They drafted him, but he really wasn't doing it. And all the younger guys outside of Cansey, obviously he's injured, but the younger kids have been kind of doing the thing. And I think Tryon is a guy that I personally think is going to be there for a while. But if you can get him with the second, I think your point differential ain't that far off, and you have a possibility with the future asset there. I don't think that would be a bad move.
I would rather get like a Jermaine Johnson.
Okay.
For the Jets. Someone like that, I feel like you might be able to kind of work that because he is kind of having an uptick in his play this year. So maybe someone's like, all right, I had enough of this, ship him off. So
I'm with it.
I mean, if you could throw in Chase in a couple of picks and go get your Myles Garrett, we were talking about him earlier.
Yeah,
I mean, that would be heavily big, but I mean, it's also something I don't think you're losing at all, getting someone like Myles Garrett with the lack of energy we're seeing in Chase Young right now.
I love it. I love how we circle back, full circle, bringing the whole show together. I got another section I want to talk about, and then we're going to get to a guy that you guys have been talking about with Dynasty, you've been pounding the table about. This one's called the rookie breakout, and then we get the second-year pop, all right? Out of these three gentlemen, and Mace alluded to Sewell a little bit earlier, which one of these guys, linebacker, edge, because I know Sanders is kind of a mix, do you think is going to have that breakout? Dorian Williams of Buffalo, he's got 25 fantasy points right now. You mentioned Drew Sanders from Denver, he's got 10.5 fantasy points. And then Noah Sewell has got 8.8 fantasy points. Which one of these guys breaks out first, and why? Ramiro, take it away.
Man, coming out, I want to say Noah Sewell. I'm from Oregon, so I saw him play. He's a great linebacker, but when I was doing some research on him, there was one part where he was like, a reason he had over 100 tackles consecutive years, and then he took a step back, and they asked him why, like he feels like he's not producing, and he had said, I feel I'm putting too much on my shoulders. So I feel with that quote alone from him, it was like, okay, maybe he's not someone I want to necessarily invest in. So I took a step back from him. So I'll say Drew Sanders. I think the opportunity is there for him. The defense is horrible. It's just going to be a matter of time before they pivot and say, okay, we're giving all our rookies, all our young players, just a chance to see what they have. So with that, he's going to build in that volume and he's going to get that playing time. And I think Drew Sanders is going to be the guy that end of the season, we're going to see that second season run where he's going to produce.
Okay. Before I get past it to Mace, because I have a funny feeling he's going to agree with you on this. Okay. I personally like Dorian Williams here because of the depleted linebacker core in Buffalo. I kind of feel like he's got no choice to play. The last 2 weeks, you kind of see the snap share increase, went from 25, I think, to 38. So he's playing more. Obviously, Terrell Bernard is the guy there, right, by default right now, and he won in the preseason. He won the job, but we've seen guys kind of just sizzle out, injuries, retirement, right, the whole nine. I think Dorian can pop. The problem I have with Sanders, I think that's the same route that Mays is going, is they paid both of the guys in front of him. So unless via trade there's an opening, I'm not sure. Unless he's going to get that edge work. And I'm cool with getting the edge work, but is he undersized to get the edge work in the NFL? That is my concern. Mace, What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, so as we have been alluding to pretty much the entire podcast here, he does play multiple positions. He is undersized at the edge, but he does play standing edge. So if he had some violent hands, he might be able to get on the outside of some tackles. I think offensive line by itself is probably like the weakest position for any position in the NFL right now. Just throwing that out there. So far this year, 5 defensive line snaps. That's it on the edge for Sanders. So I really think they're going to try to put him in that linebacker role. I personally thought since they gave Alex Singleton 3 years that he was going to be there for at least a year and a half. They were going to work Sanders on the edge, let him get beat up a little bit, have him learn the playbook, then have him get the dot and push him inside and see what happens. But he was a 3rd-round pick as well, super raw. 98 box snaps this year, but he only has 29% of defensive snaps this season. So maybe they really are keeping him on ice because they have – I just don't understand it because they are going to tear it down. They just traded Gregory. The writing's on the wall. Put him somewhere to give him time. I just don't know if they're going to do it. He only had 1 season starting in college. He's clunky when he changes direction. So it's like, why would you put him on the inside right now? You know what I mean? He's not amazing at reading because he doesn't have the time in service, if you will. And he is a long player and he shows potential, but you got to get the guy out there. So I say let him get out there and get his ass kicked for a little while on the edge, bring him inside, and I don't know, see what happens. But if anyone's going to have a breakout, it's going to be him. Sewell's got way too many people in front of him.
Yeah.
And the other guy,
Williams.
Williams. The Bills have no idea what they were going to do at linebacker except for Milano. And now he's gone. So, I mean, AJ Klein was even taking some snaps last year, too.
Yeah.
Like, they're just a mess. And he's on the team again, I think, too.
They called him up in the practice squad. He's on the active roster.
There you go. Fair enough. So, yeah, I'll just go Drew Sanders just because of the capital and just because of the avenue approach he has.
Okay. Now, you mentioned, Denver and everything, but, like, Nino's getting that time because they got rid of Gregory and they've seen what he can do. Sanders went from Alabama to Arkansas and had to switch positions. Like, I get it, you're in the SEC, but you're going from the dude to his, hillbilly cousin, and you had to switch positions. Did you think you were going to be able to do that going to the NFL and just be like that? You're too undersized, right? I think he got a lot of his tackles for losses and sacks because people didn't see him. He came around that edge, is unside, and then cut through, and all of a sudden, here's this dude in your grill or at your ankles throwing you to the ground. You didn't even see him coming, or your lineman didn't even see him coming off the edge. So I'm sticking with my guns here. I'm going Dorian Williams. I just feel like the opportunity is knocking at his door. Will he answer? I don't know. But I see where you're going with your answers in each one of these guys. Now we're going to get to the second-year breakout before I get to you guys. Who's going to take this next step by season end and why? Louis Cine, Kayvon Thibodeau, Bo Mafe, David Ojabu, a guy out in San Francisco, Drake Jackson. Ramiro, take it away.
Yeah, so we're going with my Oregon guy. We're going to go and say Kayvon Thibodeau. I think this is a guy that he already has 4 sacks on the season, right? He had 4 last year. He's only on pace to get 34 tackles, I do believe. And he had 40 last year, over 40, 49 to be exact. And I think he's someone that this defense, as much as I was saying it's not looking good earlier, they look good on paper, and they just got to produce. So it could be the coaching staff, and we've seen it many times where coach gets fired mid-season. They need to do that because they're not doing jack in New York right now on the defensive side, and they have some dogs. Yeah. Kayvon Thibodeau is one of those dogs. He just has the length, he has the strength, he has the speed, everything you want to get at the quarterback. And with someone that can go out there and rack some sacks up, that I think he will. Sacks is probably one of your most highest scoring things in IDP because it counts as a tackle, counts as a sack, maybe even a tackle for loss. You can't get multiple things in there. Kayvon Thibodeau is someone that I think right now he's a buy because he's not producing as much as we thought he would, basically. And again, it's because that team just looks yucky, right? You just don't really want anything from that team, but yet there's still some dogs on there. Kayvon being one of them. I think you want to go get him, and I think we're going to see some breakouts for him. Again, 4 sacks on the season already. We're probably going to see at least 8, I'd assume, 8 or 9 from him.
Okay. I am an Oregon fan. I've been a fan since before around Michael James era, Mariota, right around there. So I've seen some guys come and go. Mm-hmm. Why don't people in the NFL – go ahead, Mike.
I was going to say you're old, bro. You're old.
Why'd you get? Yeah, I am old, bro.
Well,
I know
Michael
that.
James, I like that. That was a
All
nice
right.
name drop.
My man said Michael James.
Michael James.
Old.
Hey,
You're
I'm
old as
43,
hell, bro.
I'm
I know
old,
you.
bro.
You're old man. You're old
I drink the
man.
good water though, fountain of youth. All right.
You look great, dude. And you're drinking that Fall River water. You're straight
Yeah,
from the
that
river.
dirty water, bro. That's why.
Oh God. It's good until you're like 40 and then you're just gonna die.
Why
But
you
yeah,
got?
you're good right now.
You had to go that route, huh?
Fall River, baby. People don't know about Fall River. Okay, let's continue. I'm sorry.
All right. So in Oregon, right? I watched how they used him, and I feel like why can't their defensive coordinator just go watch tape, right? Yes, he was an edge. They rotate him in and out, right? They let him go back like a Suggs. He played at linebacker. He played at the end. He was rotated around. He never just stuck him at the end and said, "Okay, y'all want to go off the right edge every single game, 56 snaps."
Mm-hmm.
They need to move him around because I feel like where he is now, and this is maybe a more recent comparison. Overshown at Texas coming up, right? There were so many times I'm like, this guy's so dominant. And then there were so many times I thought he was like, that 11-year-old kid in the outfield playing with the grass, just like, what am I going to do today? No, I'm not going downhill today. I'm just going to walk. Right? And I feel like maybe this year is a little more engaged, but I felt like last year when things weren't going Thibodeau's way, he kind of was just like, light off. I'm coming out here so I don't get fined. But and I want to see the Oregon. And I was starting to see a little bit of it, but I think I'm with you. The coaching got to get the best out of your players, and I don't think they do.
Agreed, 100%.
Mace, what are your thoughts here on the second-year breakout?
So real quick, to hit on what you're talking about with them kind of turning the lights off last year, I feel like he kind of did that because he was getting drugged through the dirt, and he didn't even do anything wrong during the draft. People were just saying that he was going to be a bad pick, and that he was wasted talent, and he wasn't going to pan out, and it was just like literally out of nowhere. Like the month before the draft, all of a sudden he was just like the worst.
People don't like people building their own brand. And he said right off the rip, I'm not going to the NFL just for the bag. I'm building a brand for myself after this. Football's not going to be here forever. And Kayvon Thibodeau has a chance to be on here forever. I have no problem with that, dude. What's wrong with that? If Michael Jordan said it, it's cool, right?
Sounds like he's smart to me, yeah. So anyways, to get back on track here. So, all right, I'll just say Lewis Cine, injury prone. I really loved him coming out of Georgia, but I just don't really think he's going to be that guy, at least on Minnesota. He's going to have to get the Drew Brees, Steve Young effect where he goes to another team and maybe catches fire, but I don't know. Mafe, third round pick, I believe, second round.
Second round.
The investment, but if he was going to take a jump, he would have done it early in the season or at the end of the season last year. They don't really have a lot except for Chetta, I believe, and I think that's why Wagner and Brooks get so many tackles and stuff. So I don't really think they're looking to him to do anything except for be rotation. Jabo can't get off IR. Drake Jackson, I like him. He did have that 3-sack game, but they did just go out and get Gregory. They have Farrell. They have guys. So he's more of a developmental guy. He's got crazy bend. He just hasn't really been able to put it all together. Not that he would really need to because they do have Nick Bosa. But if we're choosing a player based on their own everything, it's got to be Thib. Just for obvious reasons, man. The capital, the skill. I don't know. The only way to go, like SC was saying, is up because that team is so greasy right now.
Yeah, I'm with you. Everybody on that list was drafted in the first 2 rounds, I believe. I think Drake Jackson was the last pick in the second round for San Francisco. I put them all on that list because they all had some hype, some buzz. Like Jabo was like, yes, he's injured and he got picked injured, but he's going to be that guy that's going to save them. Like Travis Jones is supposed to be the same thing, right on the end, coming on you. He's going to be a guy, and he never really developed. Lewis Cine was supposed to be molded by Harrison Smith for a year, and then you're supposed to be Dax Hill. Well, Dax Hill's Dax Hill, and you're Lewis Cine, you're not Dax Hill, right? So it's like, I think Thibodeau's in the best place. In the best place to excel, but I also think he's in the best place to not excel because they don't know what they're doing. They don't have an identity, and the coaching staff is an ostrich. He's got his head in the dirt 90% of the time when it comes to play calling. Just with Isaiah Simmons, you trade for a guy that should be a jack of all trades, a Swiss Army knife on that defense, and it took you 2 weeks to figure out, this is what we're supposed to do with him. What were you watching for film? Like, did you watch any college tape? Did you watch anything he did at Arizona when he was good, right? When you let him move like Buda Baker, he was phenomenal, right? When you let him play the nickel and roam and do whatever he wanted, kind of like a more mobile Suggs. You play in the box. You play linebacker. You play safety. I mean, Suggs couldn't play safety, but he can play all day. He can go cover a wide receiver too. And now you got this guy just playing middle linebacker and roaming around with.
Well, the way the league is going, man, you have these crazy athletic tight ends, guys going in the slot like Cooper Kupp. You need an athletic linebacker if you can't get that full switch. I mean, we saw Dallas running 4 DBs, bringing guys down into the box, like just looking completely out of place. But that's just because they had to match speed with speed. So having Simmons is definitely like he played safety in college. Like, why wouldn't you put him in that role? I don't know what Arizona's doing. They just cut Najee Sanders too. I'm really angry with that franchise. I already don't like them because I'm a Niners fan. They're just ruining people out there, bro. Zaven Collins had like a 0% success rate as a pass rusher up to like week 4. Like, just get me away from Arizona. Dude.
Everton, yeah. Somehow they're winning games. I don't understand it. But if you were to stack Thibodeau and Simmons on one side, right, you could just rotate them guys. All right, drop Thibodeau into the linebacker position. Put Simmons down on the line, right? You can line them side by side on the edge. Like, who are you going to take? Good luck sliding the guy there. He's going to, by the time he slides, he's eating dirt. Like, because the speed of both of them, the swim move on both of them, Thibodeau's, spin move is elite. He's been doing it for years. So we can see it, and we're just, a couple of, schmucks in the IDP community. How do these guys get in the bag? They don't see it. I just don't. I don't get it. This has been a great one, but now I'm gonna let you guys tell me, Mike, and this whole community who's the guy in Dynasty that you're going to sell yourself because you've been over. You're going to sell it to the world. Who's the guy in Dynasty you got? Mace, you really don't lead it off.
Okay, so I have 2 guys. I'm not really like selling myself for them. I'm not really like a my guy, but like they're really putting up numbers. Well, okay, this guy is Devontae Wyatt, defensive tackle for Green Bay. He's had a silent, sneaky, really good year. He was drafted with Quay Walker, who's going to be the one going forward. So they already have the chemistry there. People forget about him because of Gary and Van Ness on the edge. So I feel like he's going to have a very good presence going forward. And he's a defensive tackle, so no one's going to want him. So he's probably on your waiver wire right now. So go and look out for him. Also, another guy, linebacker, Kansas City Chiefs. I think he has a sack or 2 this year. Not many snaps or minutes. Leo Chenal. I think he's going to have a huge role next year. So if we're talking Dynasty, you could probably get him for a late round pick if he's not on waivers already. KC brought over Tranquil. Bolton hasn't really been playing. And Willie Gay has had issues, suspension problems, other things going on. I do like his skill set, but I'm not really sure if he's going to be able to piece it together. I think Leo Chenal is really just waiting for his chance. And I think next preseason might be the time when he kind of takes it and takes a hold of that LB2 role behind Bolton.
Wisconsin Madison? Is that Leo Chenal's college, right? Is that where he came from? Where did he? Yeah. Small. Ramiro, talk to me about your guy.
Man, so I talked about him earlier. That's going to be Christian Gonzalez. He was my number 1 defensive back coming out last year. This guy just plays big. He's someone that he hasn't allowed a touchdown all season. Of course, he's injured, so this may be the lowest you're getting him. He was playing lights out when he was on there. He was on pace for 70 tackles. He's a big hitter. He can go and get the interception. He's just a matchup nightmare for your wide receiver. So he's someone that the Patriots are going to use him. The Patriots are masterminds when it comes to the draft, right? I believe they moved back, but then moved up, then moved back, whatever they did, but they still got their guy. Someone I said they were going to pick up at their original pick, which was like pick 12 or 13 or something like that. And then they moved up back to like 17 or 18 and ended up getting him still. So it's still, someone that you're going to see them utilize, and he's going to be someone that's going to come out hot out at the gate next season as well. And this is your window now to buy him. If I threw in another one, Dax Hill. He's someone, Jesse Bates. I loved him out there at Cincinnati. They moved on from him. Why? Because they had Dax Hill. He's on pace to have over 127 or 120 tackles, this season. Someone that's just a safety that's a threat that can be moved around, that can still get you. He doesn't let the easy pass go. He's someone that could get you an interception, and he's just going to be a threat to get you multiple tackles each week, averaging like 8.5 right now per week. He's someone that's going to go out there and continue to do it for you.
Yeah, I love all 4 of the guys that you mentioned. Obviously, Mace had a little deeper dive, but it's always good to have that guy because he could be a point total grabber, that sleeper point grab every week that puts you, over the edge. It's a close match. Oh, this guy got you an extra, 17, and you thought he was only going to get you 7. So I'm with it. One guy that I spoke him on a little bit. He's kind of popping. He's been doing it recently. It's Robert Spillane for the Raiders. I know everybody's Divine Diablo. He's going to be the guy, right? He came in. He's going to be the guy. He's a Perriman. That's all he is. All they did was fall out Perriman with Diablo. Health concerns. You can't stay healthy as well. Spillman the last 3-4. I think Spillman last week had more receptions in the first quarter than anybody on the opposing offense did, right? So he's got hands. He can get downhill. He can play in coverage. I like Spillman a lot. And then you hit it in the head. Dax Hill for me. It's just a guy. I love him. I thought we would have seen it a little bit last year. Wasn't his time. There's a reason why they let Bates go. Like you said, you nailed it 100%. Oh, they let everybody go, right? Like they let Von Bell go as well. And they said, here's your room, boy. We believe in you. I think another team that believes in the guy, and everybody thought Jack Campbell was supposed to be the leader on that defensive class. Brian Branch is him. Okay, Timothy, however you want to say it, he's the leader back there. I know Kirby Joseph's been a guy this year, but it's Brian Branch. And being youthful, like, and the fact that guy could probably wear the green dot for them right now. Like the way he plays and how, and coming from the school he comes from, we understand it. Up on the table to the very end, he was one of my Dynasty Diamonds, Brian Branch. I think that kid, he's going to have that, that Jalen Petrie bump. Like Petrie, if he didn't get hurt this year, he'd be right back there on your top 3 safety. And he's bringing the missed tackles back down again. So like the kid's dialed in. Why? Nico Ryan took the kid, saw what he had, saw what he could do under a coaching staff that was in the air, didn't know what they were going to do, and now they got a legitimate coaching staff that's dialed in. So yeah, give me Branch, give me Hill, give me Spillman. I love the guys you got. We're going to bring back in the man of the hour. Mike, what are your thoughts on this whole thing? Wrap it up.
Man, that was great. I've never been a passenger in, at least on Dynasty Degens. I've been on pods where I've just sat back and just listened to people go, but it's really great. It's listening. It's like a commute to work. Only you're in the pod. You're like at home. You listen to the pod. It's very strange feeling because I'm usually just talking. I'm talking too much most of the time. But you guys killed it, man. That was incredible. Nino, I've never handed the keys to somebody before and just let them run the show. I appreciate you. I got a video lined up for you, man.
They must have amnesia. They forgot that I'm him.
I love it.
I love it. Before we sign off, though, I want you guys to drop any content you have coming up, anything, any pods, any articles. I'll start with you, Ramiro. Sorry. I've had like 5 since we started, so just a heads up.
First, I do want to correct myself. I did say 8.5 tackles for Hill. It's 7.5 per game right now. So just correct that there.
This is like first take right now. We're gonna get the outros and we're gonna fix everything up. This is cool.
But yeah, SC Romero on X at the PPR. So you can find me dropping IDP start sit articles every Thursday on RPO Football. I just got on with League Winners to do some Devy content for them. Dynasty Pros, I actually do. I'll be doing some IDP content Devy for them, as well as every Tuesday and Thursday doing a Devy show with them as well. Hopped on my guys here today to do the IDP show instead. And then on Twitter, man, I'm dropping a thread every day except Saturday. Sundays I have a quarterback thread. Monday running back. Tuesday wide receiver. Thursday with my man Nino doing IDP, Devy, and NFL. And then Wednesday, I always say Thursday. Wednesday. Thursday I drop my rankings on there, and then Friday I drop one where it's like content creators like, hey, you should go follow these guys. But yeah, check me out on Twitter, X at the PPR. So I love to collaborate and talk to people.
Hump Day IDP, baby. Hump Day.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you coming on. Mace, what do you have coming up? What's going on? Tell people where you can find you and what exactly they can do to get access to all your content.
Yeah, for sure. I rank over at Fantasy Six Pack, also on the Fantasy Pros ECR. I got a rankings article that pops there every Wednesday, updated every day. It's got all the injuries in the league and stuff like that going as well. I don't really write anymore during the season. I'm in school full-time dad, and life's crazy. But just pretty much the ranking and then coming on different stuff here. Catch me on Twitter at CaliKing4917. Always slide in my DMs. I'm always looking to try to help people out, talk about football, because you getting knowledge is giving me knowledge, right? And that's what I'm all about. I'm all about building people. That's why I'm with you guys. Great time here today, man. Fantastic. I wanted to give one shout out to a player, though. Hot boy, ex-Niner, ex-Buck. I got to go with Quan Alexander coming in out of nowhere, bro. Left field. Sliding into a starting position kind of with Roberts and Holcomb. I don't really know what happened to Holcomb. That sucks, but had to give a shout to the hot boy. Nino, great job today, bro. Nice flow here. We're on that nice little easy, lazy river, man. You're making it easy for me in SC here. SC, it's always a pleasure, brother. It's nice to finally link up with you on something. And Mike, thank you for having me on, man. I didn't mean to not tag you in Yeah, posting that good. It was like 5 or 6 in the morning, man. I hadn't had my coffee yet. My bad.
Oh, it's all good. I actually didn't deserve a tag anyway because I didn't do anything. So that's all good. You could have just left me off of that and it would have been fine.
We got the Nerd Boy's not your guy.
Yeah.
This just in. Nerd Boy is my guy.
I love just doing the little jabs, but there's nothing behind it. I love you guys and I think it's hilarious. Yeah, like I said, I appreciate you guys coming on. I think I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit more in the future about IDP, and then, you know, I'm always trying to expand the brand a little bit. So I'd love to have you guys come on and do some shorts and do some pods for us too. So I need all the content I can get. I want to do some more IDP stuff. I don't know anything about IDP, so I want to take the best and make some content. So we'll talk shortly, and we appreciate you coming on next week. Man, I don't even know who I have next week, but we're gonna have a good show next week. I know that. Nino, do you have anything closing out?
This is a blast. Listen, I'm a newcomer to this show. It's been fun. I got to do it with two gentlemen that I was excited to do. I haven't seen Mason in a while. Like I said, me and Romero have been working for a little bit. It was nice to put a face to the name and kind of get on the screen with them and do our thing. So if you're into IDP or you just had an itch that you wanted to scratch, like we said, Mike refers to Fantasy as Strokes. You got that itch. We got that fix. Come see us over here at Dynasty Degens.
And with that, we'll see you next week.
Yeah, the revolution, y'all.
Yeah,
Yep, the revolution.
the revolution, y'all, will not be televised.
Yeah, you gotta wake up, open your eyes,
Make a change in your
and
life.
find a new way of living.
It's time to start living for the children.
Everybody look into my life. Tell me what you see. The perseverance of a young man sitting is so free. LA Mac, be the champ, but still fighting the struggle. They couldn't shut my mouth with a muzzle. I'm hard to figure like a puzzle. My name ought to be Jigsaw. Rough around the edges, I've been known to